Hi, welcome back to Leon Reads, the channel where this novel will challenge your thoughts and leave you questioning the very nature of existence. If you enjoy what you hear and interested to buy the book, we've included a link to the book in the description below, so grab a cup of tea, sit back, and let's explore the world of the Karamazov brothers. The Brothers Karamazov, 1879, tells the story of the turmoil, conspiracies, and tragedies that unfold within the Karamazov family over a span of just 4 days in an unnamed town in Russia. As tensions within the family reached their peak, we are led to explore some of the deepest aspects of religion, faith, and doubt topics few literary works in the world can tackle with such intensity. Fyodor Dostoyevsky was a famous Russian writer in the 19th century. In his youth, he became involved in politics and was arrested by the Tsar, sentenced to death, but was ultimately pardoned just before his execution. Dostoyevsky's novels are often regarded as psychological masterpieces that delve deeply into the human soul. In addition to the Brothers Karamazov, he is also known for works such as Notes from Underground, Crime and Punishment, and The Idiot. Some argue that Fyodor Dostoyevsky ranks just behind William Shakespeare among the greatest writers of all time. He stands out for his ability to blend complex philosophical and psychological ideas into thrilling and dramatic narratives. No writer has explored the darkest corners of the human soul as Dostoyevsky has. He brought to light the most disturbing and uncomfortable aspects of human nature, such as cruelty, depravity, crime, and sadism, analyzing and dissecting them like a scientist. We read Dostoyevsky's works not only for their captivating stories, but also for the profound understanding of human nature he shares. The Brothers Karamazov is the final and pinnacle work of Dostoyevsky's career. This 900-page book is a complex story with numerous subplots, symbolic imagery, deep philosophical debates, and memorable characters who pursue their individual goals. It is like a sophisticated machine with countless finely tuned parts, all working in harmony. It makes one wonder, how could such a remarkable work have come from the mind of a single person? Fyodor Pavlovich Karamazov is a man driven by greed and physical pleasures. He spent much of his youth indulging in life, deceiving and exploiting women to acquire a modest fortune. Fyodor often exhibited a vulgar, insulting, and provocative attitude toward those around him. From his reckless youth, Fyodor had 4 sons by 3 different women, forming the Karamazov family. Dmitri, the eldest son at 28, inherited some of his father's vices. Although he has a tendency to enjoy life and long binges with champagne, Dmitri still possesses a sense of morality. He does not partake in the debauchery that his father enjoys, and his hatred for Fyodor is as strong as the unconditional love he has for his younger brothers. At the start of the novel, Dmitri returns from his father's house to demand the inheritance left to him by his mother, a sequence of events that leads to a series of tragic outcomes. Next is Ivan, a sharp intellectual who is cold, overly rational, and an atheist. He is always willing to convince anyone that God does not exist, and that right and wrong are human constructs. His philosophical system is crafted to explain all of this. Alyosha is the 3rd son, a devout man with a warm heart. Alyosha follows the guidance of his spiritual mentor, Father Zosima. Alyosha never speaks ill or behaves poorly toward anyone, even toward his own father. Finally, there is Smerdyakov. When his mother, a mentally ill woman, gave birth to him, the whole town believed Fyodor Pavlovich was the only one vile enough to seduce the vulnerable girl. Fyodor never considered Smerdyakov his son but instead viewed him as a servant. Perhaps due to this rejection and abuse, Smerdyakov developed a cruel personality. It's essential to remember that The Brothers Karamazov is a philosophical novel, meaning Dostoyevsky uses the book to explore complex and fascinating ideas about human nature. The plot and characters can be seen as supporting elements for the main themes the author intends to discuss. Clearly, the central philosophical conflict here is the opposition between religion and atheism, between spirituality and logic. Which is better, a world guided by faith or one built on scientific skepticism? Can society maintain connections without the presence of God? Which system would help humans grow and find happiness? These are the questions Dostoyevsky asks and answers in The Brothers Karamazov. One of the author's primary techniques is turning the characters into symbols for opposing viewpoints. Ivan is the symbol of atheism, while Alyosha represents spiritual faith. Dostoyevsky, Dostoyevsky, just insert these ideas into the plot for us to follow. He also allows each side to present its strongest argument. Although Dostoyevsky clearly has his personal beliefs, he recognizes that by allowing each side to present its case, he will ultimately have a more comprehensive perspective when refuting them. Fyodor, Dmitri, and Smerdyakov also serve as symbols in intricate and subtle ways, which will leave you amazed at Dostoyevsky's skill. These characters will be explored further in the chapters to come. The Karamazov family, already peculiar and divided, becomes even more fractured when a dispute over inheritance between Fyodor and Dmitri erupts. They decide to visit Alyosha's monastery, hoping that Father Zosima will help them resolve their conflict. The visit turns into a disaster. Dmitri arrives late, while Fyodor seems to attend only to provoke and offend everyone. He proceeds to tell a series of crude and immoral stories in front of the monks, including Father Zosima. Meanwhile, another conflict between Fyodor and Dmitri is revealed. Both are pursuing the same young, beautiful, yet erratic woman, Grushenka. Dmitri, a man of passion and desires, is unconcerned about the fact that he is already engaged to another woman, Katerina. He even steals 3 ling rubles from his to finance his trip with Grushenka. The father and son are constantly at odds, with Dmitri even threatening to kill Fyodor at the same time. Ivan tells the monks at the church that morality, the concept of right and wrong, completely depends on the idea of an afterlife. Without heaven or hell, humans would not care about morality. They would act solely in their own self-interest, indulging in all forms of pleasure and seizing whatever they desire. Despite witnessing such indecent behavior, Father Zosima remains calm. Throughout the story, he remains silent and patient, his love for the world and all living beings unwavering. He tells Fyodor that if he wants to go to heaven, he must stop deceiving himself. Then, Father Zosima kneels before Dmitri and predicts that he will undergo much suffering. In this part of the novel, Dostoyevsky clearly establishes the roles of the characters in his philosophical debate. Father Zosima, like Alyosha, represents love, faith, and harmony with the world. Zosima believes that truth and love are inseparable, which is why he advises Fyodor to stop deceiving himself. Deception causes one to lose trust in oneself, leading to doubts about others and, ultimately, an inability to love anyone. Truth and love are 2 pieces that cannot be separated. Another important theme that Dostoyevsky asks Father Zosima to explain is the moral responsibility connected to the web of relationships. We need to forgive and avoid judgment because, like the butterfly effect, our actions have complex and far-reaching consequences, making us partially responsible for the sins of others. In the following chapters, we will see how Father Zosima's views dramatically change the course of the story. After the conflict at the monastery, the novel shifts focus to Alyosha, a gentle and endearing character. When he visits Katerina, Dmitri's unwanted, he unexpectedly encounters his brother Ivan, who is clearly having a romantic relationship with Katerina. Alyosha has dinner with Ivan, and their conversation centers around the topic of religion. Ivan, an atheist, presents his argument. He expresses his inability to accept the idea of an all-powerful God who allows suffering to spread throughout the world. He questions, why would a benevolent and loving God allow innocent children to suffer? The conventional answer to this dilemma is that God is testing our faith or punishing us for our sins. But what about children? Christianity teaches that children are innocent up to a certain age. How can a loving God allow such suffering to befall innocent children? Next, Ivan reads a poem to Alyosha titled The Grand Inquisitor. The poem tells the story of Christ reincarnated during the time of the Spanish Inquisition. After caring for the sick and the poor, Christ is arrested by the religious authorities. In the prison cell, he is visited by the Grand Inquisitor, who explains why Christ was arrested. Christ made a great mistake by giving humanity the gift of free will. As recorded in the New Testament, when Christ wandered in the desert for 40 days, he encountered Satan and faced 3 temptations. The Grand Inquisitor explains that by rejecting the temptations in the desert, Christ ensured the freedom of humanity, the freedom to act according to one's will, whether good or evil. For the Grand Inquisitor, Christ's decision was a serious mistake. Free will is a heavy burden for humanity. We have the freedom to follow God, but most people are not strong enough to maintain faith when confronted with temptation and cannot be sure whether God truly exists. The Grand Inquisitor argues that Christ should have accepted Satan's temptations. He should have seized power and provided security for humanity, rather than granting them freedom. Without the right to choose, people would not feel guilty when they make mistakes. The poem, The Grand Inquisitor, in the Brothers Karamazov, is one of the most famous passages in literary history, and one of the strongest arguments against the existence of God, though it is only a part of the novel. It has been studied extensively for its philosophical and theological implications, especially in discussions about faith, free will, and the nature of good and evil. Though the Grand Inquisitor has been used in debates against religion and faith, Dostoyevsky's view is more complex. He uses the story to pose questions and challenges to human faith, but he does not reject it. As a deeply religious man himself, Dostoyevsky seems to view faith as a personal, complex journey, reflected in the poem. With this brilliant chapter, Dostoyevsky has laid all his philosophical cards on the table. What remains now is to see how he provides an answer. Recalling Father Zosima's prophecy in the monastery that Dmitri Karamazov would suffer now, as the story reaches its most intense stage, the accuracy of this prophecy is proven. At this point, Dmitri, the eldest son of the Karamazov family, has become an unstable and unpredictable figure. Consumed by anger and jealousy, he convinces himself that Grushenka, the woman he loves, is at his father's house. Dmitri storms into his father's home, frantically searching for Grushenka. His frenzy only grows as he moves from room to room. At the peak of his rage, the story suddenly shifts it, as if Dostoyevsky is describing a moment of madness or complete mental collapse. When Dmitri comes to, he is running away from his father's house, bloodied. After discovering that Grushenka is with her former lover, he contemplates suicide. However, before he dies, he wants to see Grushenka one last time. When Grushenka sees the two men standing together, she realizes she truly loves Dmitri. Just then, the police arrived. Dmitri is arrested for the murder of his father. The evidence against Dmitri is overwhelming. He had openly expressed his hatred for his father, even threatening to kill him. Dmitri was seen fleeing Fyodor's house in a blood-stained shirt the night Fyodor was murdered. In short, Dmitri had both motive and was found at the crime scene. It's no surprise that during the subsequent trial, Dmitri is convicted and sentenced to Siberian exile, but a major surprise follows. Smerdyakov, the malicious and despised younger brother, confesses to Ivan that he is the one who killed their father, not Dmitri. Moreover, Smerdyakov says that it was Ivan's atheistic beliefs and the idea of moral nihilism that inspired him to commit this brutal act. Soon after, Smerdyakov takes his own life by hanging. Ivan, tormented by guilt, falls into a state of madness. Despite this, the story ends on a note of optimism. Katerina visits Dmitri in his Siberian prison, and the two former lovers forgive each other. Dmitri blesses Katerina's relationship with Ivan. Katerina begins caring for Ivan, Dmitri's mentally fragile brother. She also helps Dmitri plan an escape to America to reunite with Grushenka. And so, the story concludes. Now that we know the general plot, let us revisit the last 3 parts of the book to see how they align with the key themes and messages Dostoyevsky wants to convey. In the battle between faith and reason, Dostoyevsky forcefully illustrates the dangers of atheism. It leads to doubt, delusion, and isolation from others. He clearly demonstrates this by placing Ivan, the representative of atheism in the story, in a position where he must take partial responsibility for the death of his father. In the end, Ivan planted the idea in Smerdyakov's mind that nothing is truly right or wrong. With a clever twist, Dostoyevsky shows us what a world without morality would look like. At the same time, he supports Father Zosima's argument that moral responsibility is not confined to a single individual, but is distributed across a complex and vast network. While Smerdyakov may have killed his father, he did so only because of Ivan's selfish philosophy. Dostoyevsky also emphasizes the power of faith and love by proving that Zosima's teachings were correct. We see that Dmitri has endured much suffering, as predicted by Father Zosima. By structuring the story so that Zosima's wisdom is repeatedly validated, Dostoyevsky affirms his philosophy of love, faith, and goodness. It seems he wants to say that through these values, humanity can gain a deeper understanding of truth and how the world operates. Dmitri Pavlovich returns to his father Fyodor's house, a man who is arrogant, crude, and always sees himself as the center of attention. Fyodor has 3 other sons, Ivan, an intellectual atheist, Alyosha, a kind and devout man, and Smerdyakov, a despised character whom Fyodor rejects. Dmitri and his father begin to clash, not only over the issue of inheritance but also over Grushenka, a beautiful but fickle woman. In a heated argument, Dmitri attacks Fyodor and threatens to kill him. Although Dmitri is engaged to Katerina, this doesn't stop him from pursuing Grushenka. Dmitri even steals 3 rubles from his Tufanda's trip with Grushenka. Meanwhile, Ivan, cold and intelligent, is in love with Katerina. His brother Ivan is an atheist. In a philosophical discussion with Smerdyakov, Ivan argues that without God, there is no right or wrong. Morality is merely a tool to control people, promising them a fictitious afterlife in heaven. Dmitri, consumed by jealousy, believes Grushenka is at his father's house. He breaks in, attacks the butler, and leaves when he doesn't find Grushenka. Later, Fyodor is found murdered. The evidence against Dmitri is overwhelming. He had motive and was seen with blood on his shirt as he fled the house. However, Smerdyakov later confesses to Ivan that he is the one who killed Fyodor, not Dmitri. Ivan also bears some responsibility for the murder because his atheistic views influenced Smerdyakov's actions. Ivan is tormented by guilt and descends into madness, while Smerdyakov commits suicide by hanging himself. At the trial, Dmitri is convicted and exiled to Siberia. Katerina begins caring for Ivan and forgives Dmitri. She even plans to help Dmitri and Grushenka escape to America. The Brothers Karamazov, by Fyodor Dostoyevsky, is a profound exploration of faith, morality, and the complexities of the human soul. Set in 19th century Russia, the novel follows the tumultuous relationships within the Karamazov family, particularly between the father Fyodor Pavlovich and his 3 sons, Dmitri, Ivan, and Alyosha. What stands out most about the book is its philosophical depth. The novel grapples with questions of good and evil, the existence of God, and the nature of human suffering. Ivan, the intellectual and atheist, challenges the existence of a benevolent God in a world filled with suffering, particularly the suffering of innocent children. In contrast, Alyosha, the devout and compassionate monk, represents the ideal of faith and spiritual purity. The character of Dmitri embodies the passionate and conflicted human experience, torn between his desires and a sense of moral responsibility. His internal struggles and actions eventually lead to tragedy, making him a tragic hero in the classic sense. The novel's exploration of these contrasting personalities offers a nuanced look at the nature of morality and the consequences of both religious faith and doubt. Dostoyevsky also masterfully portrays the impact of family dynamics and the idea of inherited sin. The Karamazov brothers' relationship with their father Fyodor, who is depicted as a morally corrupt and self-serving man, highlights the destructive influence of a toxic patriarch. Each son is shaped by his father's actions, yet each tries to carve his own path, which leads to inevitable conflict. One of the most compelling sections of the novel is Ivan's Grand Inquisitor poem, where he explores the problem of human freedom and suffering. This philosophical dialogue raises important questions about free will, moral responsibility, and the human condition. It is a powerful critique of organized religion and the limitations of human knowledge, yet it also offers a glimpse into the possibility of redemption through faith. Overall, The Brothers Karamazov is a deeply philosophical and emotionally complex novel that examines the core of human nature. Its exploration of faith, morality, and the complexities of family relationships makes it a timeless classic that continues to resonate with readers. Dostoyevsky's profound insights into the human soul ensure that this novel remains a must-read for anyone interested in the intersection of philosophy and literature. And that wraps up our deep dive into this remarkable book. We hope it's been valuable to you. If you're interested in more titles with similar themes, leave a comment with your thoughts and recommendations. You can also buy the book to experience it more clearly, as well as support the author. I will leave the link in the description below for you to easily search. If you like the channel, you can press the like button, share, and turn on the notification bell to receive new content. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next video.